I think one of the things I am pushing hard to do this summer is to let any Browns fan that'll listen to me at least know just how special of an opportunity this franchise has this coming season because of just how special this roster is from top to bottom. It is a uniquely good to great roster. It is very, very stacked. And one of the more unique ways I think that could really bring home this point to a lot of Browns fans who are a little bit skeptical of the roster is to do a fun little exercise and talk about what Browns on this team right now this year could win major NFL awards. But before I get into that, I got to make sure that I give a shout out to the patreon.com dog check tier members. And I'm going to start with Fred Pratt III, David Valtier, Relentless Buck, Chunt, Rex Kaufman, The Real Quincy Carrier, Kevin Johnson, Marino V, Cleveland Cart, Matt H, Sign Sheets, Gemini, Fight Dirty 74, Yo-Yo, Matt Lloyd, Paul Wilcox, Hundo Magnifico, Rob Ferron, Kyle Stouffer, Lukey from Munich, Dave Roth, J Guy 101, Joe Bobby, Brad Calvo, Dylan W, James McGinley, Orenda Hall, Chad Gimme, David Malinado, Dylan Hale, Josh Bendor, Mark M, TJ Showman, Stuart Moore, Cleveland BCI, Robert Jermaine Jr., Dave Mike May, John Cummings, Andrew Hirsch, Curtis Bear, Brock Kumar, John Albert, Masayua, Buds Roland, James Nemo, Mac House, Reeve Hertz, Philip Wilcoxon, Marie Vivert, Sean Barron, Goggles Pisano, Corporal Nick Lopez, Dom Gazzulo, Nick Nasty, Ian Whitaker, Colin 216, Anthony Latham, Christian, Dave Strong, Matt Stone, Charles Work, Billy Moose Gentry, Mark Burnett II, Andre Griffin, Otis Wolf, Dog Pound Kai, Greg Ehlers, Austin Bolin, Kirkabar, Easley Badge, Joe Hart, Gabriel Wilson, Max Nilikinko, Lydia Mahawk, Jesus Serrano, Chris Phones, Picktown Browns backers, Mark Kahn, Max Owl Dojo, and Water Bear Marketing. Again, guys, thank you so much for the support. It means a ton. Again, guys, it really is so helpful when it comes to this channel and its ability to grow and its ability to stay consistent. I appreciate you all. I also want to give a reminder to you guys to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ding that notification bell so you don't miss anything. Tons of live streams coming up during the season and tons of content coming out regardless of whenever it is you hit that subscribe button and notification bell. But now let's talk about this Browns roster and who on this roster could have breakout seasons or such big seasons that it could land them some pretty prestigious NFL honors. All right, so the first one I'm going to talk about is one that I think a lot of us have talked about the possibility, at least, of it happening, which is JOK, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, to win the Defensive Rookie of the Year. Now, don't get me wrong here. This is not a prediction that this will happen, but it is likely, or there is a good chance, in my opinion, that JOK could be in the running for this award at the end of the season. I know some people have their hesitations about him. Why did he drop? Why did this and that happen to him? But the fact of the matter is that this is somebody who I thought was one of the best 10 players in the draft. He fell to the second round for whatever reason it is. And, you know, when you fall in the draft, sometimes it's a good reason, sometimes it's not. It does not appear as if a good reason has manifested itself for JOK to fall that far. So I'm going to stick with what I felt of JOK as a linebacker coming into this draft, which is somebody who could definitely win Defensive Rookie of the Year in the right situation. And now he's in a situation where a lot of the dirty work on the defense is going to be handled by veterans, right? You know, you got Malik Jackson on the inside. You have Taki, who's going to handle a lot of the dirty work at linebacker. Anthony Walker, who's going to handle that. Malcolm Smith, who's going to handle that. So he gets to do some of the more flashy stuff, some of the stuff that's going to show up more on stat sheets and the stuff that's going to make his numbers and his name pop more in this conversation. So I think for a linebacker, in general, it's kind of tough to win Defensive Rookie of the Year unless you're put in that kind of a unique situation like a Darius Leonard was, where that rookie linebacker doesn't have to worry about doing a lot of the dirty work, is instead able to use their talent and their athletic ability to make more flashy plays, for lack of a better word there. The next one, and I think this one's pretty obvious, my two guys I think could win this award is Defensive Player of the Year. First guy we're going to talk about is Denzel Ward. I think Denzel Ward has a chance to win this award this year because I think this is a prime opportunity for him to have a big breakout type season. Part of that is the fact that the secondary is much improved behind him. So it's not going to all be on Denzel Ward, or there's not going to be a ton of responsibilities put on Denzel Ward to the point to where he can't just focus on being the number one corner. I also think this gives the Browns the flexibility that if they want Denzel Ward to follow a guy who's particularly tough to cover, or the Browns don't have a ton of guys who can cover a guy like him. Like, think of a Chase Claypool. The Browns could have Denzel Ward follow him around because we know Denzel's really good against those bigger wide receivers. It puts him in a position to where either he can erase somebody's top wide receiver every game, or he's in a position to get more targets, which leads to more interceptions, which leads to more plays being made, which leads to the perception of Denzel Ward getting even higher and the play of him getting even higher. Because I think when you put him in the right position with the right support, I think he is one of the best corners in the NFL. I think the problem with Denzel Ward outside of injuries so far in Cleveland has really been the fact that he hasn't had any support. So he hasn't been able to do what he does extremely well, which is press man. And I think he's going to have a lot more opportunities to do that this season than he did in any of his other seasons he was in Cleveland. So I expect big things from Denzel Ward. The other guy who's obviously up for this award, he's always up for this award as long as he's healthy, is Myles Garrett. Look, he looks bigger. He looks faster. He looks stronger. He looks like Myles Garrett. And, he has more help on that defensive line. He has more help on the defense overall. The secondary is going to be better, so he's going to have more time to rush. There are a myriad of reasons why you would think that Myles Garrett for Defensive Player of the Year, or at least being in that conversation, would be a pretty safe bet. So not a ton of time that I'm going to spend here talking about that. The next one that I want to talk about is Offensive Player of the Year, because I do think you have two Browns who could potentially win this award, or at least be in the running for it. First guy is Baker Mayfield. Year 2, he has more weapons, and it looks like he is very serious about upping this chemistry and taking advantage of this window that they have with all the workouts they've done. I think he's done 2 off-camp workouts. He spent the whole offseason pretty much working with Jarvis Landry and Anthony Schwartz, and then also, now he's working with Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham down in Austin. We have not seen Baker Mayfield in the NFL in year 2 of a system. We've seen him in year 1s a ton of a time, but not in year 2. So this is the first time he's going to be in year 2. Also this year, he's going to have more weapons. Odell's hopefully going to be healthy the entire season. You have a guy who can add a specific skill when it comes to deep balls with Anthony Schwartz, and then you're bringing back all the other guys that he had success with at the end of last season. So more weapons, more experience. Year 2 of this offense, in an offense that really seemed to fit Baker Mayfield like a glove. All those things are prime for a kind of a breakout type year. And if he can play at a even higher level than he did last year, he will ultimately be in the Offensive Player of the Year conversation, because that would result in a pretty terrific touchdown interception ratio and some really, really efficient stats, because he was extremely efficient at the end of last season. The next guy I think who won the Offensive Player of the Year on the Cleveland Browns, Nick Chubb. Look, injury was the only thing holding him back from being in that conversation last year, because he just didn't have the overall numbers. But this is a dude, when the Browns were awful, had an awful offensive line, was the second leading rusher in football behind a team that had an awesome offensive line at the time in the Tennessee Titans and Derrick Henry. So Nick Chubb is the real deal. We all know this. Also, you have to think about this tactically, right? We know Nick Chubb's really good without an offensive line. We know Nick Chubb's really good when they're focusing on Nick Chubb, but some of those things have changed. Right now, he's going to have the best offensive line in football if they play at the same form that they were last year, and he's going to have a passing attack that teams are going to have to take seriously, right? Odell, Jarvis, Baker out there. Those are guys that you cannot just stack the box on. You will pay for that, as teams learned at the end of last season. So he's not going to see as many stacked boxes, and he's going to get consistently good looks from the offensive line throughout the season. Nick Chubb is a real chance to have I don't know if you could call it a breakout year, right? The 2019 season was tremendous by its own, but he could have a opportunity to have one of those offensive player of the year conversation for running back seasons, or he might win the award itself. Now let's talk about another interesting award that I think would be interesting one to watch, because the Browns have a ton of players who could win this award, or at least be in the conversation, and that's comeback player of the year. Look, Grant Delpit can definitely be eligible for this award. He lost his 2020 to a torn Achilles. He's coming back, and he looks like he's making tremendous progress. He looks like he's ahead of schedule, and he's playing a position in the defense, and I think he's going to play a role in the defense that's going to allow him to make a ton of plays and be a playmaker. Again, like this kind of the same thing with JLK. I think that the Browns have enough guys that are going to worry about some of the grunt work, or some of the more technical work that doesn't get a lot of praise. And I think Grant's going to be in a position to kind of scoop in interceptions or get tip balls or make some tremendous plays. And since he is coming off of that Achilles, and guys don't normally come off of that, if he does have a good season or a really good season, this is somebody who could be eligible for that award, because that's just a real good feel-good story there with Grant Delpit. The next guy is Jadeveon Clowney, right? The last 2 years of his career have essentially pretty much been erased due to injury, right? He played some games here and there, but Jadeveon hasn't put together what would feel like, a full season of work, which means like maybe 12 plus games in like 3 years at this point. So if he comes back, plays a full season's of work, and has great numbers, I think people are going to really be on him for the Comeback Player of the Year award. And he's in a great spot to do both of those things. Look, he's going to be less relied on than he's ever been in his career. And unlike the situation when he was in Houston, where he put up good numbers with J.J. Watt, he's with somebody who can truly mirror him. J.J. Watt didn't mirror Jadeveon as much as Miles can just truly mirror him, which can allow Jadeveon to put up some really good numbers when it comes to sacks because of all the attention. And, inevitably, when Miles does get pressure, how quarterbacks are going to be forced to escape that pressure might just run into Jadeveon Clowney's lap for, a handful of easy sacks throughout the year, which could really bolster his numbers. And let's be honest, if there's anybody on this team who has all the incentive in the world to have a Pro Bowl or All-Pro or Comeback Player of the Year type season, it's Jadeveon Clowney. He's on a 1-year deal. If he has that type of season this year, he can ask for a ton of money in free agency in the coming offseason. So he has a ton to prove. He has a ton to work for, and he has all the incentive in the world to do it. So I wouldn't count him out for Comeback Player of the Year. And the last guy I think is going to be in the talk for some of these awards is Odell for Comeback Player of the Year. Look, I think this is a part where the national narrative of Odell and it being so harshly negative on him has actually put him in a good place to win this award. Because now I think all it would take for people to jump off of the Odell negativity train to the Odell positivity train would be like a 1,200-yard season, where a couple years ago he would have had to have a career year or something like that. But I think people are at the point now with Odell and all the setbacks he has had since he's been in Cleveland, injuries, terrible coaches, all those things and everything in between. I think we're at the point to where we just want to see him succeed. We just want to see him be Odell Beckham Jr. again. So I think if he does give us as a fan base, or us as the NFL fan, or just us as NFL fans, that I think a lot of people will be more than happy to reward him by giving him Comeback Player of the Year, because he came back from the ACL injury. And also just he's had a rough couple of years for Odell Beckham standards since he's left New York. And I think he just really needs that kind of big season. And I think if he does, it will mean a lot of great things for the Cleveland Browns, obviously, when it comes to their record and their chances of winning a Super Bowl. But that's my thoughts. What do you think? Is there a player on this roster you think could win a NFL award this year that nobody's talking about? Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. But again, guys, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Have a good night.